He sat in silence, shackled and waiting for death. But when the guards asked his last wish, his voice broke the room. "I just want to see my dog one last time." No one expected what happened next, and it's a moment that would change everything forever. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The prison was eerily quiet that night, the kind of silence that pressed down on the soul. Death row wasn't just a place, it was a waiting room where time moved slowly, where each tick of the clock echoed like a countdown. For one man, that countdown was almost over. He sat on his cot, staring at the cracked ceiling above. The weight of his past pressed heavily on his chest. Every mistake, every wrong choice, every face he couldn't forget. He wasn't the kind of man who cried, but tonight, regret clung to him like shackles tighter than iron chains. Other inmates whispered about their last meals, last words, last confessions. But he remained different, silent. Guards who had seen countless executions couldn't quite read him. There was something unsettling in his eyes, not fear, not anger, but a quiet determination, as if he was holding on to one final truth. When the warden finally asked him about his last request, the room braced for the usual answer, a final meal, a cigarette, maybe a phone call. But instead, his voice cracked through the silence with something no one expected. "I want to see my dog." The officers exchanged startled glances, some scoffing, others shifting uncomfortably at the strange request. Most prisoners asked for indulgence or comfort, but this was different. The man's eyes didn't waver, and his hands clenched tightly, as if the very thought of his dog kept him alive. "Please," he whispered, his tone raw, stripped of pride. "Just one last moment with him." The guards, hardened by years of duty, hesitated. For the first time, they felt the weight of a wish they couldn't easily dismiss. The next day, a ripple of curiosity spread through the prison as word of the unusual request reached every corner. Few believed it would actually happen. Yet, when the heavy doors creaked open, the sound of claws clicking against the concrete floor silenced even the most hardened inmates. A German shepherd was led in under careful watch, his ears perked and eyes scanning the unfamiliar environment. The man, chained and seated in the center of the room, lifted his head slowly. For a heartbeat, everything froze. His breath caught in his throat as recognition flared in his tear-filled eyes. The dog paused, cautious, tilting his head as if searching the man's face for truth. Then, with a sudden surge of recognition, his body tensed. The silent prison yard turned into a stage, where guards and inmates alike held their breath, waiting to what this reunion would unleash. But instead of leaping with joy, the dog froze in place. His tail didn't wag, his ears pricked forward, and his gaze locked onto the prisoner with unsettling intensity. Then he sat down firmly, chest out, eyes unblinking. The room shifted, guards glanced at each other in unease, their whispers bouncing off the cold cement walls. Something wasn't right. The prisoner leaned forward, his voice breaking as he whispered the dog's name. Still, the animal refused to move. Instead, he growled low as though torn between love and warning. Every second stretched unbearably long, the sound of his growl echoing in everyone's chest. It wasn't the joyful reunion anyone expected. It was something deeper, something urgent. The German shepherd wasn't just recognizing his owner. He was trying to tell them something. The tension thickened as the dog pressed forward, pawing insistently at his owner's chest. His whines were sharp, desperate, echoing louder than any words could. Guards muttered nervously, unsure if the animal sensed aggression, fear, or something no human eye could detect. The prisoner, shaken, lowered his gaze but said nothing. A prison doctor, drawn by the commotion, stepped inside, his brow furrowed as he studied the shepherd's behavior. "Wait," he murmured, kneeling beside the man. The dog's paw pressed harder against his chest, his whines rising. Curious, the doctor placed a hand against the prisoner's ribs, listening closely to his breathing. Then it happened. The doctor's expression shifted to alarm. He felt an irregular rhythm, shallow breaths, something hidden beneath the surface. "He's not faking," the doctor whispered. "There's a serious internal issue here." Gasps rippled through the room. The dog hadn't been warning of danger. He had been sounding an alarm to save his master's life. Chaos rippled through the block as the doctor demanded immediate attention. The execution was halted, guards scrambling to summon medical staff. The prisoner, pale and trembling, was rushed toward the infirmary, while his dog barked frantically, straining against the leash to follow. What was supposed to be his last request had turned into a fight for survival. News spread quickly. Within hours, officials debated the impossible. Could a man destined for death be spared because fate had intervened? Some argued it was only a delay. Others whispered about divine signs, second chances, and justice itself. In the center of it all stood the German shepherd, no longer just a loyal companion, but the reason his master still drew breath. Everything had changed, and the world was watching. Lying in the infirmary bed, the prisoner's mind drifted back to a different time, a time before iron bars and numbered uniforms. He remembered the night he found the German shepherd abandoned and shivering in an alley. He had shared his only food, and in that moment, their bond was sealed forever. The memories unfolded like scenes from a forgotten life, the dog chasing after him, guarding him, sleeping at his feet. Even when the world turned its back on the man, the shepherd never wavered. Loyalty had been his greatest crime, and loyalty was now his salvation. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Officers who once viewed him with nothing but contempt now saw something else: remorse, humanity, and a love so fierce it softened hardened hearts. The prisoner's voice trembled as he whispered, "He's always been my only family." And in that moment, no one could deny it was true.